All righty, with all of that said, you ready?
Good to go.
Oh, good to go. Okay, good. Call the meeting to order, and I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands of the First Nations that have been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. In particular, I acknowledge the history, spirituality, and culture of the territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, people of the Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Adawa, and Potawatomi Nation, and further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, known collectively as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. We recognize and deeply appreciate their historic connection to this area, as well as the contributions of the Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples whose ancestors share these lands and waters. May we live with respect for each other on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples. Miigwech. And moving on to approval of the agenda. The only thing I want to add under, I guess under new business, talk about the special constable appointment. And when we get to that point, we can, Dave can give us some more information on sort of the background on that. So if there's no other amendments to the agenda, I call for a motion to approve the agenda. Mary, thank you. Mary, thank you. All in favor? You didn't put your hand. Did. Declaration of conflict of interest arising out of the matters and minutes listed on the agenda. Hearing none. Presentations, deputations, and public question period. Don't know of any that we have for today. Confirmation of the minutes of the public session held on January 28th, 2026. I could have a motion for that to approve them.
Carol and I.
Carol, Mary in second. Okay. Business arising out of the public session minutes of January 28th. Nothing. Yeah, we did carry.
We do that?
Yep. Yeah. All in favor? There we go. There's that hand. Is that one finger or two fingers? Never mind.
Which finger?
Moving on to correspondence received. In your package, there was a Inspector General's memo number 9 regarding the inclusion of a province-wide inspection of police integrity and anti-corruption. As you probably know, this inspection was participated as a result of the York Regional Police announcing the outcome of Project South, which was an investigation into the possible organized crime and corruption in the Toronto Police Services. The investigation identified serious allegations and resulted in the arrest of several current and former members of TPS and has prompted broader concerns about the integrity and public confidence of policing. It's essential that these concerns are addressed directly, examined independently, and handled in a manner that strengthens public trust. And this was quoted by Ryan Treschner, the IOP. Given the scope of this inspection, the importance of being conducted in a timely manner, the Inspector of Policing is appointing an individual external to government to serve as lead inspector. Upon completion of the inspector, will submit a report outlining their independent findings. And you probably recall that I sent out a media release on February the 11th acknowledging the board's support for this investigation and the board's support for our local police service members as they continue to serve the community with professionalism and integrity. I don't think that I didn't see the media picked up on that. It was sent out, but I didn't see anything in the local papers or anything. Was maybe I missed it?
Oh, it might have been on the Current or so. I did see it somewhere.
Was it okay? Yeah, I'm not a subscriber, so I wouldn't see that much detail. Moving on to chairman's report. Tomorrow I have an OSPSB meeting via Zoom, and then on March 10th there is a Zone 5 meeting also via Zoom. And I think you would have all received that Zoom link for the Zone 5 meeting. If you didn't, let me know and I can send it out to you. And Carol, you had a question?
We could just go back to the letter.
Oh, yes.
I know it's really early days. Do we have any idea of what might be required on a go-forward basis? Are we just really at the preliminary stages? There's been no anticipation of time framing, whether each area will have reports to fill in. You know, I'm going back to the fact that we know we're maximally resourced and we know where we're headed budget wise. So, you know, we this is one more thing that will be, and I anticipate there'll be a quick turnaround time for response in relation to the seriousness of this issue.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if there have
Well-
been any ideas.
This is the information that I received.
That's it.
It's a blank page.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were looking at something.
No, we have no idea. We have no idea at this point in time what it will involve. What resources required. So let's sort of wait and see what happens.
So I'll answer and I'll defer to Hank, who may have a little bit more
Oh,
information,
okay.
but no, there's been nothing come out. They haven't named an investigator yet publicly to lead the investigation, whether that's a judiciary or whoever that might be. So the scope hasn't been, like, obviously they're gonna let that individual determine the scope. So the scope hasn't been determined, but I will suggest that it is gonna increase workload because they've indicated that all 45 municipal police services in the OPP and the one First Nations who've opted into the act are all going to be required to participate in that investigation, and then they'll be looking at all of them. So what that workload looks like, not yet, but there will be demand for our service, and I'll turn it over to Hank.
Actually, you guys have all got it very clear. We don't know a whole lot yet. No one's been named. The advice that we've been suggested to forward on to is the 5 bullet points are provided in that letter. Just check your board policies and your chief's procedures, as well as are they being followed properly? But as far as methodology, the inspection itself might be on site. It might simply be a document. Won't know how cumbersome it'll be for everybody. Focus I suspect will be towards the GTA, but in all fairness, all 45 services, you are correct, are being inspected. But to what degree it may simply be forwarding your policies to the IG's office.
Yes,
So at this point, it truly is a wait and see. There's no real advantage on doing some preemptive auditing to see about compliance with policies and procedures.
I would suggest reviewing the policies and procedures now that you currently have that impact those 5 bullet points.
Okay.
There's probably gonna be more than 5. You drill down to the different policies you have. But those 5 bullet points is gonna be the focus of the inspection. The policy related to those 5, I would suggest you review those now just to make sure you're following.
And to drill down a little further through your chair. Who's the we? Who's the we who should look at that? Is that someone impartial? How does
I
that
think,
happen?
sorry, for you, Chair, the board can look after the board policies
Okay.
and the service can look.
And
after the
actually-
procedures.
yeah, actually, I've already alerted Dave Preston, who is our policy writer. I sent the IOP memo number 5 out to him, and he's reviewing it currently. With respect to our policies and bylaws, we did an IOP analytic review that was due December 31st, and it laid out all of the policies that we do have in place right now. And I discussed those with Dave to make sure they were aligned with what's required under the CSPA. And we appeared to be fine, but depending on how far they drill down. And I think it will be more about, we have the policy, how can you demonstrate compliance?
Mhm.
That's my point exactly. Are they being followed? So that's
And that was like the audit part. I was querying, how do you know, what is required, but it's great, the actions are.
So when we've also reached out to Dave Bradford, and after that submission in December, we actually were working on a number of different things, and just yesterday we sent out a unit directive specific to CPIC queries and CPIC direction, and so that there's, making sure that we're compliant with the CPIC manual and how those entries go in and how we can follow up and make sure why it was entered, why it was being conducted, those types of things. So we're aware of that, and
Thank you.
So most of these listing are, they call ministry recommended procedures, and most of the text of those procedures are, the bulk of what's in there is relatively standardized across the, so our procedures are going to look like what the ministry sent us for those procedures, like, so unless the ministry changes.
especially in zone 5 with the.
Yeah, that's saying, I don't think there'd be a procedural issue, it's just waiting to see what comes out of direction from the ministry on it, so.
Thank you.
Okay, good. All right, moving on then to item number 10, governance, and I have nothing for governance. Hank, do you have anything from?
Nothing in addition to the inspection.
Anybody else under governance thoughts? Okay. Moving on to reports, and we'll start off with Inspector Matheson. Front line.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Report from the Criminal Investigations Branch. One of our detectives arranged alongside some investigators from the OPP the Survivors Forum in conjunction with Center. For the purpose was to meet with local survivors and other support agencies and bring them together. How we handle calls for intimate partner violence in those incidents. A lot of the feedback that we received was positive, and it gave an opportunity for victims to share their experiences with police and also give insight to them on how their needs are managed during these investigations. Some areas of emphasis for police that were highlighted by these victims included ensuring referrals to victim services are completed, to take as much time as possible to gather all the contextual information regarding how they got to that point, and maintain contact with the victim by keeping them apprised of court process, including charges laid, release conditions, etc. During that forum, we received highly positive feedback regarding the actions of one of our officers, Constable Carlo Obolos. There was an excerpt that I included in the report directly from that victim, which I'll read now. And she said, his approach and demeanor made a meaningful difference, and I'm so thankful that I was able to finally acknowledge that. I truly meant what I said, especially in regard to my life not looking anything like it does today. If he hadn't responded how he did, please let him know how grateful I am. So that was a positive piece of feedback from a person in the community. We put a positive commendation into Constable's file based on those comments. In addition to ongoing investigations and regular duties, a couple of our detectives were assigned to the courts during the month of January regarding a multi-week sexual assault and drug trafficking case. There's a lot of in-court appearances, and the detectives were required to do a lot of victim management related tasks related to the victims in that case. Drug overdose information, we had no suspected drug overdose deaths in January. There are currently no outstanding missing people. Moving to the bail compliance and warrant apprehension unit, BCWA. They executed 18 arrest warrants in January. Conducted 5 compliance checks in regards to persons on conditions in the community. In addition, they laid 17 new criminal charges as a result of investigations. A lot of that stemmed from, as I'll highlight later in the training report, they were covering the road while some of our regular patrol officers were tied up in training. So the community oriented response and enforcement unit, the core unit, they continued to do mobile and foot patrols in January, focusing on winter weather and persons who are experiencing homelessness or similar issues. Continuing to monitor them and provide assistance as needed. And similar to the BCWA unit, they also assisted in frontline duties to cover training purposes in January. Finally, the investigator from CORE participated in a robbery investigation in which a person brandished a knife and uttered threats, demanding drugs and money. Police were able to make an immediate arrest in that case and seize a weapon, in addition to the laying charges. Our auxiliary unit report in January, they contributed 213 total volunteer hours. And of note, auxiliary Jessica Brown completed her certification in car seat installation and inspections. She participated in a car seat clinic along with Mubadong on January 7th. Assisting new parents or inexperienced parents in installing and ensuring the safety and proper installation of car seats.
Mary?
Question.
Yes.
Do they ever go up to the hospital, for instance, when new babies are coming home to see if those?
I'm not aware of them
Yeah,
doing it at
car
the hospital.
seats.
Chief, do you have any knowledge of that?
No, and she just finished her training and certification, but that, I mean, certainly.
I know babies
She-
aren't born
she's
every
ar-
minute.
She's around and
Yeah.
she's in volunteering time, do something we follow up with.
Okay.
I know right now they've been concentrating on community partners where they have young children. There'd be a group of people getting together.
Mhm.
Just another one on the last day or
Yeah,
two,
she did one,
school.
Yeah, that'll be next month, I guess, but yeah, she was,
Yeah.
yeah.
which is the last couple.
I don't know if there's someone they could connect with up there, just.
I think through the health unit, the new babies are.
Mhm. Healthy babies.
Healthy babies, health, yeah.
Thanks.
Moving on to the frontline report and collisions. Statistics are listed in the table. Pretty consistent month over month from last year. I would highlight again, the court security issue with the part-time officers resulted in 224 and 3/4 hours of time no longer spent on frontline duties doing court security. Ride statistics for January, there were 21 ride checks conducted by Owen Sound Police in January with a total of 1,245 officers checked. 58 officers in total.
Drivers checked.
Yes.
Yeah.
What did I say? Oh, maybe that might be needed. Thank you. Well, that's embarrassing. There were 33 roadside breath tests conducted, and one person was charged with the Highway Traffic Act. And there were 7 impaired drivers charged in January of 2026. Collision statistics. Saw an increase in collisions month over month from December, however, a decrease from January last year to January this year. But all still fairly consistent, nothing really noteworthy, the collisions. Our community services officer continued to engage with the public through social media campaigns, including our 30 Forward campaign, which we've discussed, as well as recruiting Camp Safe, Citizens on Patrol, and some snowmobile ride trucks that were conducted in January. There was a focus on community engagement with our schools in January, including St. Mary's Beecher follow-up, lockdown drills at Owen Sound District Secondary School, as well as meetings with Alexandra, Hillcrest, East Ridge, and Notre Dame. Our community services officer attended a youth training course in Ottawa that was hosted by the RCMP. And the focus of that training was on radicalization online, including online lockdown drills, feature protocols, and sexual exploitation of youth.
Just on that, Inspector Matson, I also attended the feature protocol development with the Blue School Board, the Catholic School Board as well. So it's moving forward. They were working with us to try and set it up and design it and then roll it out across all their areas. Very positive. And then out of that came a grant opportunity for some further feature training and partners in order to develop that program even more. It's a violent threat risk assessment. Basically, it takes it's a standardization of how schools are handling risks and threats throughout the school board, and when to contact police, when not, when to involve them, how early to involve them, when you have to have a formal meeting and then sit down of each session and bring in the police and somebody who's trained, and when it's proper for the school to handle it on their own, types of things. So there's some consistency across the board. It's a really positive step forward for making sure that everything's handled the same way consistently, and that everybody understands when it's necessary to ramp it up and when it's not necessary to ramp it up, because depending on the staff member and who receives the information, sometimes they'll want it a little differently than what needs to be done.
The training report, as I just briefly touched on, all of our sworn officers participated in block training sessions and defensive tactics, conducted energy weapons, SharePoint integration, an updated Axon evidence program interface, as well as training on how to refer cases to our crime unit for increases or further.
Any questions for the inspector? Thank you. Moving on to Inspector Doherty. Reports.
Morning, Chair, members of the board. So records and courts update. In January 26, compared to the previous month, there was a reduction, 4.5% bulk record check searches, 43% reduction in warrants executed, and no change to persons charged. Compared year to date, it was a 0.9% reduction in bulk record check searches. So even though we saw several months of reductions, overall the net effect has been very small. 28.6% reduction in warrants executed, and a 3.2% reduction in persons charged. And as Craig had alluded to, our members were involved in block training, so that would have impacted on some of those numbers. Especially with the CWA officer doing backfill while they were training. In terms of custody transports, there was a 21.6% reduction last month, and a 17.5% reduction since the last year. Video appearances are down 5% from the previous month and 9.5% overall in the past year. And special constable hours worked, there was a 9.1% reduction last month and a 13.8% reduction overall past year. December was an extremely busy month for the courts, and that settled down in January, which is reason for the reduction. As you know, we provide armed security now at the both courthouses. That resulted in 224.75 hours of officer time and 1,410 hours of special constable hours. And a quick update on the bylaw. The City of Owen Sound is updating its annual status report for the multi-year accessibility plan, and it has been confirmed that the Owen Sound private transportation bylaw was updated in 2019 to incorporate the requirements of the transportation standards under the Accessibility for Ontario's with Disabilities Act. It is also confirmed this time there are no accessible taxi cabs registered to operate within the City of Owen Sound.
So if I can just add a couple of things, the courts, I also, along with Director Flooney, met with the CAO at Grey County to discuss their presentation at Roma, to go over court security so that we're on the same page. And they understand what's driven the increases and as well what some of the concerns are from my end on court security. So that was a really positive meeting. We've arranged that we'll meet every 6 months to keep up to date, to keep each other updated, and whenever there's any, they're supposed to get a response from the parliamentary assistants based on their presentation at Roma. So when they are, he'll reach out to me as well and talk to me about the results. So that was a really positive meeting. Sat down since he took his spot. Appreciated time to come up and visit. There were some things that they were unaware of in regards to court security. It was better to meet in person and tell them exactly what, and not get a filtered message from whoever else. So really positive. And the other was EODA. We're also looking at our own internal EODA compliance and making sure that we're up to date on that. So we're just in the process of setting down a committee to look at internally what EODA looks like.
Go.
Go ahead.
Going back to the Roma delegations and just clarification about the feedback. How, I mean, we know that we have a intergovernment relations through the city manager sitting back in the corner there. And I'm wondering, as those conversations continue, what is the process for making sure that that information gets shared? Should an opportunity be made available through the city for advocacy ongoing or future delegations? So I'm wondering how that would work.
Yeah, so as I said, I wasn't aware that they were speaking on court security from Grey County, and we talked about that, and so we made arrangements that when they do get response from the parliamentary assistant, because they want a direct response on whether or not they're security related Provincial Fences Act court as well. And there was some discussion at the meeting, there was some, from what I gather from the CEO, there was discussion in the meeting and there was there's some information that they weren't doing it in some of municipalities. So they want some clarity to make sure that that does cover it. When I get that, then we'll come back with part to my board here and we'll talk to the city and explain exactly what's going on and why it's going on. And I don't anticipate that it's going to change. They're going to want security there. The justices have made it very clear, and I have a meeting at 1 o'clock with all 3 levels of justice, Superior Court, Ontario Court, and the Justice of Peace to or what the expectations are and make sure that we're on the same page for that. And it's been since last fall that we've been trying to get this meeting.
So it sounds like a two-pronged communication process, obviously here to the board, but also to directly, and it what channels for you then and chair. Okay. AODA. We have a joint accessibility committee through the county now, rather than a non-sound accessibility committee. What is the communication process around accessibility to that joint? Or is there any process at all where anything is reviewed? We've just heard earlier, there's no accessible taxi service. And now we're reviewing our AODA. So my question is, how do we link with those with content expertise about accessibility? Common know of is through that joint accessibility committee at Grey County.
So I wasn't aware of a joint committee through Grey County. I mean, Director Flooney's on the list and as part of the city contacts, and the city reached out to her for updates on AODA compliance in regards to transportation bylaws and taxi cabs in particular. Other than that, we've had no involvement with the city or the county on AODA. So and internally, it was brought to our attention yesterday that we were behind and need to catch up because we haven't done one internally and probably in 6 or 7 years. So we're starting that internally, and we'll obviously we can reach out to them and ask about compliance, but there's a number of areas in the station that are concerning to me about AODA, and one is the front entrance way and the accessibility for handicapped individuals to either even get in the building, or if they're in the building, how to communicate with staff.
So definitely that joint accessibility committee now that I've mentioned it, you're aware that there is a committee.
Well, my question was close. You said you met with the CAO about delegations. Are you meeting with Tim as well on this? But didn't you have a delegation at AMO without meeting with the chief or anything? That was on police, but you didn't have any communication with the police part of it.
I'd have to check that, Brian. I understand that government relations had reached out, but I'll find out, sir. I just don't.
Yeah, well, whatever the reason, I don't think that, we gotta make sure that doesn't happen again.
I don't know if that just been clear. I'll check.
On accessibility, are you working with the city because this is a city facility on AODA?
So we have, from my understanding of legislation, is we have to have one internally as well as part of the city. But our internal one's the one that we're behind on right now.
Okay, so if there were compliance issues, as you mentioned, concerns about the front entrance, is there a contact at the city, Tim, that Craig would work with?
Facilities first.
Yeah.
Facilities?
Right, for our manager of corporate services and the general facilities route, and to raise AOD flags there, and then Councilor Merton, or member Merton here, is correct in the sense of with the joint committee, then things could be reviewed through that joint committee.
From my understanding of it, and I brought it up to the facilities staff, that as long as we don't do any changes, we're grandfathered with the current setup. But as soon as there's any renovations, then we have to become AODA compliant. So that doesn't help an individual who has a disability, needs some assistance in order to acquire police services down the road or even now. So until we become AODA compliant, that we may be legislated and covered in the legislation that is grandfathered, but doesn't meet the needs of the community.
Yeah, like one thing off the top of my mind that I would think is there should be a railing up the walkway. For someone to,
Yeah,
for assistance.
railing up the walkway, automated and
Door.
door openers and closures and kick plates for wheelchair access, like it's pretty,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Do you chair? Continue on the AODA, so should those needs are even currently being identified, evaluated, are there opportunities for funding streams to assist in bringing forward those changes?
That would be a city facilities question, and like I said, I've made them aware that this is a concern, that it doesn't meet our community needs. It may meet legislative requirements right now until something's done, but it doesn't meet our community's needs, and that'll be something that they'd have.
Thank you.
Right, moving on to IT.
Yeah, communication center and IT services. Thanks, sir. With our transition to 9 in November, the former source of monthly 911 data from Bell Flex reports, it's no longer available to us. So we're currently working with our vendor to create enhanced reporting with the expanded data that will become available. And analysis of key performance metrics from these enhanced reports is in progress. In January, the communication center dispatched 5,255 calls and averaged 170 calls per day. This is a 4% increase from previous month. The month-over-month increase in volume is primarily attributed to a 6% increase in calls for service from the 6 police agencies served by our communication center, while dispatch call volumes for fire services and county roads declined. Compared to January 2025, the overall communications dispatch call volume is down 5%. In January, 1,492 calls were dispatched primarily to the One Sound Police Service, which represented a 3% increase from December and a 6% increase compared to the previous year. Any questions before I move on to IT? So our IT services have been extremely busy. They continue to work with our Eastern partners, and this included some hands-on visits to Brockville and Gananoque. These visits enabled the IT team to complete the majority of NG911 installations for the first wave of clients, and certifications for these agencies are scheduled for processing in March, after which the second phase will begin. The final phase covering certification of backup sites is planned for this summer. In January, we were involved in discussions with several policing partners regarding new IT service contracts aimed at improving long-term sustainability and reliability in service delivery. Project documentation will be prepared in February for these agencies to evaluate, with implementation in 26 or 27. Our IT team also continued to participate in discussions with a potential new computer-aided dispatch vendor. Working alongside other police agencies, as well as the director and the chief levels, we're looking to explore opportunities for greater efficiency and cost savings. And lastly, the IT department continued the setup and planning discussions for the new cell biometric scanning system. So we've moved forward with that project, and we're looking to install 6 sensors in our cells, and that work is expected to be done over the next month. And biometric sensors are have the ability to monitor respiration, heart rate of the person in custody, so that we're alerted if anything is changed or it might become a medical emergency.
Just to go back, you talked about the total number of dispatch calls and then the total number that were dispatched to Owen Sound Police. What was the difference between those two numbers now?
So dispatch to Owen Sound Police specifically was 1,492, and dispatched overall to all our partner services was 5,255.
So we're looking at about 4,000 calls that we received remuneration from.
So
So if it was just for Owen Sound Police, we still need the same number of people. So we're using excess capacity to generate income for those additional 4,000 calls. That's a fair statement.
that's the first statement.
One extra staff.
Yeah, one extra. Okay, good.
And one thing I'll point out, and you know, the NG 911 system. We were the first to go live, or one of the first to go live, and so we're still working with our vendor to work out the bugs and get the data and metrics on the back end, but at the same time, had some bugs, and we're actually operating out of the backup center from 6 p.m. yesterday until tomorrow, implementing a new system and a new version of that software. So it may take a little bit to get that because we're still working with, and we're actually going with a new version that hasn't been tested in a live environment, which isn't the ideal. But certainly the transition last night went very smoothly, and to the backup site, and the new system's been implemented there. It's being implemented here today, and then they'll be back later this afternoon into the primary site. So that's the reason that, you know, it might not take all that long to do the metrics, but there's still a lot of work going on at the front end to make this, to get the bugs out of the system. We're live and we're piloting it and we're putting it in. Other people are still certifying with it and haven't gone live yet. So there's been a lot of work on that.
Good. Moving on to human resources.
Sure. So I just wanted to give an update on our OSL project. So we contracted with a company called Mobile Innovations to implement OSL Cloud. This is a human resources, time and attendance, training, and quartermaster store system. It's a cloud-based centralized system which will consolidate all HR-related data and replace staff schedule care and meta compliance. This software has already been in use with several small to mid police services in Ontario. Currently, our HR information is stored across multiple systems and formats, which is not ideal or efficient. The introduction of OSL Cloud will consolidate this information into a single system, so it will be centralized and more accurate. We'll be better able to manage training records, policy acknowledgement, equipment inventory, and automated payroll data. Transitioning to a unified HR platform will produce a single source location for all our HR data. Will enable reliable real-time reporting and analytics, improve efficiency for both HR and supervisor staff. And it will allow security access in a tiered manner so that supervisors can access certain information and employees themselves will be able to access information of their own training records or time and attendance. So the projected timeline is approximately 12 weeks. We're currently working with the vendor and provide them with some upfront information that they've asked for, and they're going to put that in and continue to work through that process.
Just a question on the payment for salaries is from the city. Does this work with the city's program at all to provide efficiencies in that regard?
That's something that we're looking into to make sure that it is integrated, because that's necessary with our time and attendance as well as payroll.
Okay.
City's upgrading their system, so until we get the final version of that, then there will be a dump of information that should be compatible with here. So.
Right, any other questions from Inspector? Moving on to lost hours.
Great, thank you, Chair. So we had a 59.6% decrease in lost hours due to member sick leave in January compared to December, and a 23.2% decrease in year-to-date lost hours in 26 compared to 2025. And there was a 6.7% increase in lost hours due to WSIB leave in January compared to December. Those hours were related to a new claim where one of our members was injured during training. There was a 55.6% decrease in year-to-date lost hours due to WSIB leave in 26 compared to 2025, so a substantial reduction. We still have one member, full-time member, off on WSIB, which is pending final resolution, but the member's not being compensated for that service. We also have two part-time staff off on medical leave related to personal injuries, and we're still working with our medical practitioners to determine when we can get that.
When we were reviewing the budget, this is WSIB was a line item that was left blank. you had mentioned. Is this already estimated that there is some figures coming in? Should be a figure in that line item?
So, the answer to that, in a nutshell, is it's not costing us anything, so we're not recovering anything. So that's why that was removed from the budget this year, because in other years previously, during the claim, there would be. Well, there was a out, and then there was a return from WSIB, and now that we're not paying out, there's no money coming back from WSIB, so there was a question of the council about, whether your variance is that much, and, why is it that much? Well, my hope is that we don't have anybody else go off on WSIB, so I'm not gonna count on getting money back from them. It doesn't cost us anything.
Just going back to information requests and records check. At a recent committee meeting, there was a presentation around freedom of information requests. And I gather, if I understand correctly, that now police board or services is being charged for those FOIs for privacy. So I'm wondering, where is that within our whole budget process? That would be because I understand this is new, this chargeback. And then clarify for me, when the budget comes from the city, but the FOI requests are paid back to the city, is that just an accounting kind of line adjustment? It just seems like they're paying and then it's coming back to them, and I need clarification since this is new.
Okay, so, yes, there, to implement camera systems for the city, we're working on a a memorandum of understanding, so that our officers can do direct. But until that was resolved, that was put into place, and I think it's signed now. But percent sure.
It's signed, but not.
Not executed, so until that came into effect, the process until the MOU was in place. Because it's not in effect because we haven't trained all of our staff on access and what the requirements are and what they have to do in order to be compliant with the MOU. So until that time, until we had the MOU in place, then yes, we were doing it through a formalized FOI request format. That wasn't budgeted, but we do have a small amount of investigative expense, and so it falls under that. It's an investigative expense that costs us money, so it costs us $5 for the FOI request and whatever time. So that's where it falls under. It's an investigative expense, just like it is if we have to tow a vehicle somewhere for examination or something like that. We do also a lot of FOI requests internally because the public can access our information through an FOI request. So we have an FOI coordinator as well that does FOI on our behalf. It's a loss leader. It's not a revenue generator, that's for sure.
So you're anticipating that eventually for the camera issue will no longer be required?
Yes,
okay,
correct. And yes, it's yes, we get our budget from the city, but that's a portion of it that ends up going back as an expense to us. Goes back to the city.
Yeah, I'm wrong, but those FOI fees that we're able to charge, I don't think they're the same fees when I did it 25 years ago, so don't believe.
It's right there.
Yeah, it's a loss leader. It does not cover time and cost to put things together.
thank you.
Nothing else? Moving on to item number 13, building and facilities updates.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm working on a comprehensive this meeting, but I can give some quick updates on the status of certain items. Most of these things they continue to be in progress. You might have noticed when you walked in, Sergeant Matheson finally got his new door.
Oh darn, I noticed. I'll have to.
You didn't know it's been working hard in there.
The contractor did an amazing job, made it look very much like the other office doors and windows. Greg's happy now that he closes.
Now they can open.
The mold remediation that we've been waiting for some time has now been scheduled for Saturday, February 28th. On the outline work lines. Access to. Other doing mold remediation facilities. Not that day afterwards, or any of the piles it seems. Deal with Brady Carver before he leaves, asking for a lot of things to try and get it resolved. One is the parking issue that we've had. It's been an ongoing issue, especially during winter months with the snow and we have block training, where we quickly fill parking lot at our open capacity. The city had issued us 5 free parking to allow across the street there. The issue with that is that they have to find temporary parking to come inside and get the tag, put it in their vehicle to drive it over there and come back, and then they're supposed to return the tag back for other employees, but might notice when you walk to the parking lot, some people still have the tag here, so it's not a very effective or efficient way to help us out during Monday to Friday hours in particular. So I have worked with Brady, and he has allowed us to provide the license plates of our day shift staff that normally works. There's about 38 staff, and those will be uploaded into the system so that when they drive here and the parking lot's full, they immediately drive over First Avenue and they'll be exempt from any parking restrictions. That's supposed to be in effect.
Who's the contact now at the city since Brady's gone?
That's Kate.
Kate?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm also working with Brady on a service level agreement regarding facility requests from our service. So in that service level agreement, it will have a outline notification procedure in terms of the level of urgency, in terms of whether it's a phone call or an email notification, so the facilities can respond accordingly. We also are going to enter into that service level agreement. Snow removal, I know it was an issue last board meeting. The sidewalks weren't cleared very well. We did contact Brady immediately afterwards, and it was done within an hour. But we need the city to be mindful that we're a 24/7 operational center, and that has to be done on an operating basis.
It wasn't cleared till well into the evening.
Late afternoon, then the following.
Yeah, there was the following day. CPA, it wasn't shoveled for the CPA that evening.
Well, I took photos and I sent them to Brady, and I did go back out and I saw it clear, but it wasn't down to the concrete. It was just a.
There was a portion from there to the safe exchange zone that was shoveled, but there was not from like for the rest of the walkway.
Just going out to the sidewalk when we left the meeting, it was better than when we came in. Yeah.
The HVAC recommission, it's still in progress and the date has not been established for that. We'll finalize some paint colors to paint the interior walls, offices, and door trim. The main bathroom floor renos, we're still waiting for confirmation on price estimates. Once that's been finalized, then we'll be looking at scheduling the work, which we're hoping. And we talked last week about having access to water for our staff for the weight room, or just having filling up their water bottles during the day. So Brady's looking into placing the fridge downstairs with a water dispensing ice making fridge, which will address that. Do that in a more timely manner than some of the other options we talked about. Practical or not supported in the city. That's the
Just on the water filling, I had mentioned last meeting about it. So the front area, which is a public area, is there water available for people to come in and get water?
there's a bathroom, but there's no water dispensing.
Water filling, there's no fountain or anything there. Should there be?
Well, this is the issue that the city has with the public facing water fountains. It's about maintaining them, and when they're in a public domain like that, there's ongoing maintenance and cleanliness and issues of concern like that.
So the water filling station out there though?
There is not one.
No, but
Sir.
could there be?
The city doesn't support that anymore, so I think they were endorsing that at one point in time, having public facing water fountains. but it was cost prohibitive, I think.
But I don't really mean a fountain. I mean a water bottle filling station.
Like,
Are they just, you plug them in and away they go?
well,
have
in the
to-
most simplest terms, yeah, I mean, it has to be designed into the wall, get water. A
To
water
it.
source to it, et cetera, but yes. And then you have a water filling station. I'd have to go back and look at our capital plans. I'm not certain that water filling stations were moved forward within the council's. Capital projects
So it's something
in
that's,
general.
it's
not this
something that we,
program.
yeah, it's something that we've asked for probably the last 5 or 6 years that I know of when I've been here. They did the preliminary looks at the lobby in order to do that, and it was gonna be an exorbitant amount to get the water supply and the drain there to do that. Asked about putting it in the Barclay room, because they designated
Oh, yeah.
warming and cooling location. There is a wall there. There was no progress on that front, and then we were advised that it's no longer supported by the city. So there is no water fountain or filling station within this facility anywhere.
Mary, didn't you ask, I'm gonna say 2 or 3 meetings ago, about putting in a water filling station at the Bay Shore upstairs?
Yes, I did.
That wasn't an issue, so why?
It didn't seem to be an issue to get it at the Bay Shore.
So that's my point. So if it's not an issue for the Bay Shore, why is it an issue for the police? We don't know that. You know that, Tim?
Yeah, Carol.
I'd like to move on if we're taking it for, I think, so it's an identified need. Certainly, as we move forward, we're finished with the budget, but it should be perhaps potential request.
I think it's been a request, as Craig pointed out, for a number of years, and then finally it was just, the city said, no, we're not gonna look at it. So it's just dropped.
And it's not something that we budget for. So anything
No,
facilities
it's-
related, we
Mhm.
don't budget for anything like that. It's we're one of the
I'm-
building locations for the city, and
I don't remember council abandoning the water filling station. I thought they were doing so many each year.
I'm unaware off the top. of
Yeah.
my head.
Maybe an update can be brought to us next meeting then on that.
So moving from like water to snow, which is kind of like water to.
Frozen water?
Yeah, frozen water. So I'd like to go back, issue around. And this is where sometimes it can be challenging because from what I've observed, police services reports to a certain component within the city, and the city's great about communicating. But now the phrase is calling up. We know that Clara Whitfield is the Director of Public Works and Engineering, and snow removal and sidewalk clearing fall under that department. So going back to the issue around 24/7 and know your snow was developed some time ago. I would certainly appreciate additional information on where our 24/7 core essential services fall within a priority clearing scale. We know there are priorities for schools and others, but I think we need to go back and see if that document, Know Your Snow, that booklet, is still meeting the needs that we have, but also making sure that everyone is connected to the issue. And yes, Brady does facilities, that's still part, and this is where, there's many different partners that work together for this. So I would suggest, because 24/7 sidewalk and snow clearance for an essential service is a priority, and we need to make sure that that's within a work plan or how it's separate out. So I would make that request that we go back.
so in response to your question, that the city, was it 3 years ago, Dave? 2, 3? They took it on as part of a joint budget. Is that 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
Part of the contract services.
So it had been contracted out as part of the city was examined, bringing it back in-house to try and save costs. Because the contractor is expensive, there's no question about that. We are in a snow belt and we get a lot of snow, and even the snow removal from the lot. So it was brought back in-house and they were gonna grant the lots. It was, I'm gonna there's no other word for them, that it was a failure. We were not prioritized, we were having issues with snow removal. That's why it's gone back to a private contractor. There was no priority for 24/7. You know, you can't let the snow accumulate here like you can in a parking lot overnight, and then clean it up before people come into work in the morning. Because we have to be in and out 24/7, and our staff have to come in and out, we're going at all hours. So it was recognized that, and they didn't have proper equipment in order to do it with the vehicles and how tight it is. You know, with a large plow that they had, then they were looking at getting a pickup truck with a plow, and they did that for a while. It didn't work, and it didn't meet our needs. It didn't meet the city's needs, and it was too much of a demand. So we'd be calling and saying it needs to be cleared now because there was 6 inches in the lot, and you know, cars are getting stuck. But it would be, well, we don't have the capacity right now because the roads need to be cleared, which I understand completely. So that's why I went back to contracted service. The contract, so city facilities are the only ones involved in that process now. City Works doesn't have any involvement. Perhaps the shoveling of the sidewalk. And as I say, that's a 24-hour operation as well, and it wasn't recognized that, you know, I drove out of here after a meeting and went by a number of other facilities, and they were all cleared, so it wasn't high on the priority list for getting shoveled, certainly last month when you folks met.
And that, so my request is, can we please revisit this? Because you're identifying the parking lot as one thing, but the sidewalk access to buildings is another. And I think we see them as all important, but it's more about the prioritizing of the clearance activities, and it never hurts to read the law. Because, and how it was defined when that Never Snow document came out is one thing, but times change, and maybe we need to relook at this. The perspective of Central Core Service. How do we move that? If it has to, then I don't know. So my request is that, and I do believe we need to speak to the Director of Public Works and Engineering in addition to facilities, so that we get everyone on the same page. Chair.
Could you send that document, Know Your Snow, to Kayla?
Oh, it's a huge, big binder.
It's a huge, if you go
Yeah.
city website, it'll be there, and it may, you know, let's just make sure, like, let's know where the document is and then move from there if a change needs to be, or if it's more implementation of what the charity scale is. We see, as we've said before, the first poll doesn't help meet the needs of people trying to get in the doors.
Did we contract it out this year privately? There's a contract through
The city contract, so
contract, so there's a separate contractor hired by the city
for the
parking lot. And do they have a criteria? The contractor have a criteria from the city as to when it's to be plowed, and what are the specific areas that need to be moved?
Yeah, and you know, when it gets to a certain depth, then they come and look after it. So I don't know that we've had to call at all for extra clearance. I don't,
So
I don't believe so.
there's only been 2 occasions where Inspector Massey reached out to the contractor. Once they put the snow in northwest corner, there's a bit of an island there. Once it gets to capacity, starts to fall into the adjacent parking spaces. As soon as we see that, we reach out. We've only had 2 occasions where we had to do that. I've also canvassed with our sergeant to see if we had any other special requests for snow removal or salting, and that has not.
So it seems like the current process is working, except for major snowfalls or significant snowfall events.
For the parking lots work, even with major snowfalls and significant.
The issue of the parking lot is the vehicles, so it's a 2-night process to move vehicles out,
Yeah.
get that section done, and then
Move them back, yeah.
versus sidewalk. I would take that.
The snow piles being removed.
When we recall.
Well, we make the request, so they don't do it on their own accord. If we do it once it starts to encroach on the couple of parking spots that are on the side of that island, so.
Where there's about 4 or 5 parking spots in excess of the corner, then we have them in to clear it. I think that's been twice. So if you can touch base on what our what a feel as well, and make sure that the sidewalk plows are including extra passes or what the standard is now from that. To make sure that they're meeting the needs of the community.
Like that on the probably the result, the best expectation would be to our next year's snow removal contract is to include the sidewalk in that contract. If you're just relying on one of the 4 city sidewalk plows to keep this up to date, I can tell as a daily walker, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Just period. So when we look at the contract for snow removal next year, you should include that 15 meters or whatever in the sidewalk. On the front, the front door.
The sidewalk actually extends much further because our parking lot is.
Whatever the
Yeah.
layout is, yeah, but that should be incorporated into that tender that goes out to.
Yeah, I agree, that'll be the easiest solution, but when I stand in front of council and I see that there's been. It's highlighted that there's a $25,000 cost for snow removal, that goes against policing costs and everything else, and it's. Highlighted in the presentation to city council where no other areas, snow removal costs are highlighted to council. I hate to make it even larger, but we can certainly do that.
So you're saying that the art gallery is done by the city and doesn't get charged back, but yet this facility is owned by the city and it gets charged back to police?
I'm just saying that I'm sure it all gets charged back in behind the scenes somewhere, the cost allocations and appropriately done. Saying that in the presentation to council on the budget, it was specific that there was a $25,000 cost, and I didn't see anything anywhere else about no removal costs or any other part of the city.
The other
Only
thing,
and the chair was there, well,
Yeah.
most of you were there.
the other thing too is that the art gallery, the library, the rec center are not 24/7 operations. The library, for a classic example, if it snows, they don't come to work. So that's why it's not highlighted, because they can't say, well, specifically this amount of money was spent on the library, the art gallery, whatever it may be. It's all lumped into snow removal.
And it being 24/7, it will be more expensive for snow removal. Because it can't sit and wait. It can't accumulate and then move it before the cars arrive in the morning. That's just not a feasible option, so, yeah, the city. The city points out how much it is to clear our lot. That's the answer is yes, that's how much it is to clear our lot.
Because as a landlord, they're
It's
responsible
It's
for
a
it.
totally different need and level of service when you're 24/7.
So other building maintenance, though, the city absorbs those costs and doesn't charge them back to the police.
That'd be a question for the financial director there at the city, but I know that. Everything ends up getting pushed back on the financial information report as to what costs are, and that includes building and. The debenture that for the renovations from 2009 are still on the financial information report for police building costs, for policing costs and all those things. I don't know how it works for all the other departments in the city.
But if the windows were washed, does the police pay for that or does the city pay for that?
The city pays for it, but it ends up as a cost.
Charge back?
As it ends up as a cost against the building and how much it costs to put the police in this building.
So the Billy Bishop Museum is that maintained by the city? Or
It is, and there is a charge.
charge back from there?
So I think for the sake of consistency and rather than make the assumption, it would be very helpful for us to know if that cost allocation, reallocation practice applies to all city facilities back to the department, because we just need to make sure that it's what's being applied to police services is the same accounting practices that are applied to every other department, so that
Would
And
that
I
be better?
can't say that. The only person who probably could say that would be Kate Allen, I would suspect.
And would that be something coming from police board? As an operational issue, or should that come from one of our members of city council who sits there and go to the city and clarify?
What's the best way to get the information?
You might want to start with asking Kate, because you're representing the police board on council.
Is that something that's chair we wish to do?
No.
Oh, at tennis ping pong, now it's pickleball.
Designate you to do that.
Well, we don't want to assume, and we don't want to jump to conclusions. This is a time to clarify, so that, and I do know that there is an intentionality over the years to be able to accurately reflect costs of each department and each facility by the reallocation. And I know that's been changing, trending, not just for police services, so it more accurately reflects services. So we just need to know, has that been done for others as well?
Would you be willing to take that on?
And you have to remember, we're not a department. There is,
I think that's the difference. That's why I said Billy Bishop.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, there are things that are different and would be and should be different. But as far as reflecting true costs of a service, need to be consistent across the board. So,
And it sounds to me like it is happening according to your explanation of.
And that makes
Maintenance.
just in general, like, whoever sends the request, but is when the police board needs information from city staff, whether it's a manager, director, direct it to the city manager, and then I can direct staff to appropriately, have them make a presentation or come to a board meeting to make the presentation, whatever the case might be, but have that come through my office.
So perhaps it may, Chair. Perhaps it would be most useful to extend the invitation to Kate to attend a meeting, to be able to explain to all of us here, and answer questions. Emails are fine, but you miss a lot of that interaction. And I'm wondering if it might be more helpful to just extend that invitation and ask them to come and help us understand, and then understand in relation to, not that I'm not willing to be, but I'm just wondering whether that invitation should come, Chair.
If the chair makes an invitation to me, then I can arrange that. Whatever.
Maybe that's our better approach,
Mhm.
because then everyone around the table hears the messaging, and it's gives us a chance to answer questions, ask questions, understand, how is it different? And then we can start to track that.
That's a good idea, because there's other things, like, we've talked about vehicles. Well, the end game of the vehicles, the money goes back to the city and not to the police, and there's other things that she can answer.
So Chair, do you need a motion? Extend that invitation?
I don't think so. It'll just be a direction from the board, then I'll contact Tim, make arrangements for that.
And is that acceptable to you, Chair?
Sure.
Interrupted.
That's okay.
Hopefully we.
No, it's good.
Just to go back to what you talked about, the fridge with expensive and things like that, is there a cost to the police service for that?
Inspecting the facilities is going to help us with that. There's not supposed to be a cost.
There's no cost to that, okay. Okay.
I just want to plan on operation.
but it will show up as a policing cost.
Yes.
Maybe in the back end.
So, yeah, I would hazard to say, I would be careful to say there's no cost for police service. It will show up as a cost.
Great, any other questions for Inspector Doherty? Okay, moving on to the next item is the financial year-end financial position. I'll turn that over to the chief.
So two things here. Got the numbers and we had a meeting last week, late last week. The board chair attended, our finance manager attended. Kate Allen, the city's finance director, and Tim joined us as well. And we went over the final numbers for 2025 year end. And I put a summary down at the bottom of the first page, so highlight that. See the variances in red are over budget, the variance in green is under budget. I'm not sure why that one changed from red to black, but so the bottom number, the 255,776.33 is under the budget was 9,008,000 last year, and we ended up spending 8,752,000. Just so we were below budget by about $250,000, and so that's the final position for last year. There's a significant variance in officers because we were short staffed all year. We had a number of officers leaving, a number of officers retire. As you hear me say every month, we still have 4 in training right now, still catching up from last year. Those officers that are in training are significantly less than what was budgeted when we time to hire them and training, and the officers who some of them were budgeted to leave, some of them left without any information ahead of time, so they were budgeted for the whole year. So that's that variance on that side is all related to officer absences. The costs in relation to the overrun of the civilian line, most of it, some of it is regards to absences and having to fill absences, particularly in dispatch. But so you will see that the revenue for on the 4th page where it says the revenue generated from the dispatch company is 715,000, almost 716,000. The costs related to are $2,249,596. But that is over budget. We were over budget specifically in wages part-time and losing an overtime. Some of that relates to pay. So we were over by 252,000. That relates to the retro payments, contract negotiations and settlements that we didn't budget enough for, and there's a number of other areas where that took place as well on the civilian side. And the officer's contract that's yet to be completely ratified, but that's been put into there as well. You'll see highlight the switchboard. The $289,054 that was covered off so there was no cost to the city or to the taxpayer to cover anybody that was in custody over the year. Or sorry for that, that's sub-block monitoring. And then that's significance there. Support obviously was over and above 114,000, and was explained throughout the year. Number of extra hours of coverage since August that was put in the number of hours. So those are some of the highlights from last year, and good news about that is some of the budget, some of the what has been a reserve will now be able to cover the shortfall for the 2026 budget, so there won't be any need. We'll still be able to maintain that budget at 7.23% as it was presented, given the difference coming from the reserves that were realized this year. And so there will be no need to look at that further. The budget that I presented to the board at the meeting and that was approved by the board will be the budget for 2026. It's not the best practice to use reserves, but certainly in a year with some financial challenges for the city, it's probably best to use that money to balance our budget for this year and move forward into next year and look and see what the budget looks like.
Any questions for the chief?
Did you ever get money out of Walkerton?
That hasn't been resolved yet. It's not finished. So we haven't looked at sending a bill or anything of that.
Chair, so just to clarify, because of the shortfall in budget, what was requested, what the city accepted.
Just to clarify, they
They
didn't
don't
accept
approve.
anything. They didn't
They just accepted the report, but they didn't.
approve it.
City
They
doesn't
received it.
approve. Yeah, they received it. Thank you. So what you're saying to us today is that you are using a reserve fund for operating costs to offset the shortfall.
So there was some savings from the past year, 2025, that have been realized and brought forward into the 26 budget. It doesn't change the number there, the $255,000 that's been that is under budget. This is brought into 2026 in order to make the difference with 165,000 between the 5.5% that was approved by the city and the 7.23% that was approved by the board. So we will have the operating finances to operate, present, and use the budget at 7.23%.
So does this have to go to council, or how does this get communicated?
Council's approved their budget, council's done what they need to, and now it's a matter of the board saying that we have the money to do what you had done and you had approved, so I think we're fine just moving forward. It's not best practice to use reserves, but it does meet our needs and it saves everyone the aggravation and the and the next steps, whatever those may have been, to decide that, and it's probably the best way to move forward right now.
Okay. No other questions? Moving on to chief's activity reports.
So
If I can just, it just seems like it's unresolved at the council end. Because council said 5.5. And this solution has come up. It just doesn't seem to me that there's any communication to the other council members of this resolution. Okay, I mean, I can certainly say it when I report to council.
Yeah.
yeah,
I suppose we'll do it.
and I guess it's up to the board how you want that message taken, if you need it
Okay,
further, but yeah, as it stands now, the operating from last year will cover difference.
yeah, I mean, the director and the manager have both agreed that that's a solution. And okay, I'm fine.
Yeah, so our meeting with
Yeah.
with the city manager and with the finance director from the city and our own, and both agreed that's the easiest way to resolve the issues and put it to bed and meet both needs of the city at the present time and the needs of the police board at the present time, so. Does resolve that. Is it an ongoing sustainable practice? No. But given our financial situation for this year and the shortages, so we have meeting our needs and taking some of that from this year and putting it into next year.
Okay.
I think it was the best alternative that we had. And the city manager and Kate agreed that it was the right way to go, so that's why we went that way. Go ahead.
So it doesn't actually set a precedent for the future then, it's just
No.
time, just in time. Because the numbers would work. But it's not an expectation or a precedent setting move.
No.
And I don't anticipate that we'd be in this position to be able to do it again anytime soon. Like, we had so many people leave last year. And then.
Sorry to belabor it.
Okay. No, all good. Any other questions?
Yeah. Okay, we're moving on to item number 15, chief's activity report.
Nothing really overly significant. I guess I spent equivalent of a day meeting with all the frontline officers at the in-service training session. So about an hour and a half every session with the officers to meet following lunch and just an open conversation with the chief. We also had meeting with the commander at CFB Meaford about opportunities for collaboration. I think there's some really positive and exciting information coming out of that we're gonna follow up and try and arrange. And we taped a Rogers Health Link TV show with one of the members present here today. And used that platform to highlight our Forward 30 campaign and some of our new members, and I think they did a really good job presenting on behalf of the service. So that's it.
Thank you, Chief. Moving on to item 16, annual reports.
So the annual report, 2025 use of force, statistics. So everybody's on the same page as a requirement for, officer under the CSPA, use of force report under the following circumstances. Officer draws their firearm in the presence of a member of the public. Points their firearm at a person, discharges a firearm, uses a weapon on another person. Draws and displays a conducted energy weapon to a person. Compliance. Points a conducted energy weapon at a person, discharges a conducted energy weapon, or uses force on another person that results in injury or medical attention, the need for medical attention. So the report highlights some changes that were brought in 2023, mostly to incorporate the use of CEWs and the use of force reporting for police. And I've highlighted some of the interesting statistics from an oversight perspective. So you'll see that we submitted a total of 36 use of force reports in 2025, which captured circumstances of 28 incidents. 6 of those involved the dispatching of sick animals. Comparatively, from that 36 the year prior, we submitted 31 involving 25 incidents. With 18,974 calls for service in 2025, that represents use of force reporting in 0.15% of all of our occurrences. This low number can be attributed to training and de-escalation and proper use of force tactics. Perceptions of a person's race regarding use of force. In Owen Sound, the officer perceived the subject as being white 16 times, Indigenous 3 times, Latino 2 times, and Black on 1 occasion. From a gender perspective, of the 22 individuals described in the report, 20 of the subjects were perceived as male, while perceived as female on 2 occasions. For CEWs, they were drawn, displayed, or discharged 23 times as opposed to 19. And a firearm was drawn, pointed, or discharged 12 times. So 12. And there's some specific information regarding this, but any questions? That's
Hearing none. On then. Item number B is we have an admin fee bylaw.
You annual reports.
Oh, is there? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I only had A. Okay.
Sorry. I didn't put them on there. I didn't know if.
All
there
right,
had to be
fair
one
enough.
other added.
So I'll provide the update on the 2025 property vault.
I read that. I should have remembered.
So on February 10th, an inspection on what's conducted. Regarding accountability, I think the company brand sampling of property at average storage location within the vault. Total of 48 items were selected for review. All property items selected was properly logged on the department account system according to occurrence number, property tag, item description, seizing off the badge number, stored in the proper location within the property vault. With regards to security and integrity, hard access audit was conducted with IT services to verify the names of authorized personnel and access to the property vault. Access to the vault is restricted to the property officer and the designated way and the executive management team. There were no instances of unauthorized access to the property vault. High-risk items such as drugs, firearms, money were all secured in separate storage compartments within the secure property vault. In terms of compliance and legal requirements, property items inspected complied with our services policy and procedure on collection, preservation, and control of evidence and property. In terms of operational efficiency, the property vault was well organized. Property items identified for disposal were set aside for processing. Empty containers and non-property related items were removed. And then several recommendations were for the vault could do with a supervised cleaning of the movable shelving units, particularly the top shelves and floor area. It's recommended that we do a quarterly review of property items to ensure compliance with property dispositions and the services retention schedules once established to help maintain our capacity. And the purchase of a powered cellular phone storage cabinet to securely store and protect seized cellular phones and tablets. Questions?
Next, another report?
Well, this is a very quick update. IT services, we only had one item that was sent for recycling depot. It was a universal power supply from Port Hope Police Service. That was it. That's an item. And that's me as well. So we need to ensure that whenever members put forward a secondary activity request, that they comply with applicable legislation and more importantly, the service. This is to prevent conflicts of interest, avoid negative public perception, and ensure alignment with service goals, objectives, and priorities. During 2025, the chief approved the following secondary employment requests. One for a special constable who requested permission to work as a facilitator presenter on specialized topics, which granted. Another was for a civilian member, request authorization for on-call work as a child and youth worker for a local social service agency, also granted. And just as a note, some members serve on boards and committees as part of their employment duties with the service. Therefore, they are not required to apply under this procedure. Additionally, other members continue secondary employment activities previously in other years.
Reach is here?
No, that's fine, we'll do reach. That, okay. Again?
Yeah. Here?
Yes. Okay, we'll take a 10-minute recess to deal with reach in our sugar hit. the admin fee bylaw, and we've got an update to it to include a new fee for broad police record checks at $100. Before we go to approval, I'd like to note that the date on the signature page should read a first and second reading this time at the 18th day of February 2026. So if I could have someone make the following motion that leave be granted to introduce bylaw number 2026-01, admin fee bylaw, and the same hereby deemed to have been read first and second time. Mary, thank you. Seconder for that? Brian?
Sure.
All in favor? Mary? Next is a review on the agenda was a review of the general policy 009, and I think Brian at our last meeting had asked that this be put on the agenda to review the policy.
Well, I've read it and I'm kind of satisfied with it. As mentioned. Premiums. But I'm assuming that's for counselors that are sitting on the board.
No, actually, what that is that when we changed it, I think the original policy was back in admin 18 issued in 2013, and at that point in time, we did have a meal per diem rate. And when we updated this, and I think you were with us in December of 2024 as part of the overall updates to a lot of our policies as a result of the CSPA, we neglected to take the per diem out because we removed meal per diem and just said that for board members, submit your expenses and we'll pay for your meal costs. And I think we did that with the same with the Senior Officers Association as well.
So personally, for myself, it's okay the way it is because I was more concerned about the meals that are being supplied when you go to a conference. I will always eat those and I will always be there for those.
Yeah.
But there's nothing in that policy that says we have to. If I want to go and have a meal or somebody else wants to go and have a meal at a restaurant rather than what it is, it's fine. You can do that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm-
But you can't submit that meal cost because it's already included in conference fee.
Okay, well, I don't see that. I don't see where it says that. So
I think it's generally
my point is,
understood.
if I went to a conference and I took my wife has to pay.
Mhm.
And if my wife and I are going downstairs to the restaurant to eat instead of going to a conference room to eat with 200 other people, I want to be able to do that, or someone needs to be able to do that.
And you can do
And in
that.
that case, I would put in the meal for myself, not my wife, but,
But you,
and you're saying you,
we paid for it twice then.
I guess.
We don't,
I mean, well, it's no different than being a counselor and going to an AMO conference. You can go every day, you can do a lunch or a dinner at a certain conference room if you choose to do that. Lots of people go to those meals and then you still get your per diem, right?
Right. You get a daily per diem.
I mean, I'm okay with it the way it is. but-
okay,
I have a question.
yes.
First of all, the budget process, section 4.
Mhm.
I questioned whether this needs changed at all now because of the strong mayor powers in the budget.
Okay.
So that probably needs reviewed.
Budget.
And you don't need to do it now. It can come back to another
Yeah.
meeting.
I'll send that to Dave and ask him
Yeah.
what we should do about that.
And Appendix B. The last line indicates. No, maybe. Oh, yeah. The last line indicates registration fees and accommodations for spouse or companion of a board member will be paid by the board in addition to attendance at special dinner meetings and banquets related to the board. Section 7C3 indicates section 7,
You're in 009, correct?
I've been what?
Okay, go ahead. Reimbursement of expenses.
It's the ineligible expenses of that. 7C3 says travel, meals and or accommodation expenses for accompanying family members and companions. So they contradict each other. 7C3 says they are not eligible, but Appendix B says they are eligible. Is that what I'm seeing?
I don't know how to lose it.
Appendix B, this sentence here, registration. To me, they contradict each other. One says they're ineligible, the other says they're eligible.
Oh, the whole sentence does.
Yeah.
Contradicts itself.
Right.
Yes.
So that contradicts 7C3.
Yeah, because it says the board will not be responsible, and then it says in the same sentence, the board will be paid. It will be
Right.
paid.
So it relates back to 7C3
Yeah,
for that. And then all expenses except per diems must be accompanied by original receipts. That's fine. And they're shall submit claims to the executive assistants. And then all expense claims are to be signed by the chief or designate. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay. And somewhere it says attendance. Members of the board who are also members of city council will reimburse under this policy while on approved board business or may submit to the city under expense policy. So does that mean I, as a counselor, can submit this to the city under their policy and get a daily per diem, or submit it here and not get a daily per diem? Is that what that means?
No, I don't think that that's what it means.
What does it mean then?
Well, I
That's
think,
the one I want to be on.
Well, it says or. That's what it means.
and I think that needs to be reviewed as well.
Okay.
I don't think that was the intent of the appendix B when it finally come in. So we'll talk to Dave about that and see why that's worded like that. Also, we'll go back to, because I know when you look at mid-18, it was done previous to that in 2020, it doesn't,
I haven't seen that.
doesn't,
Anyway, those are my
it
point.
doesn't have an actual schedule on it. Okay, well, that's good.
And just ask me if I get, if I. Off, do I get paid? I have no idea.
Brian gets paid to attend meetings, is that correct? And
Yeah.
Mary,
Yes.
okay.
But
If
not
they
to a
go
conference.
to a conference or on police business to a zone meeting, do they get paid for that?
There is nothing in the policies that provide for that.
I would say it's the.
It's included in your total
included in the
remuneration
total
package.
remuneration.
So they get an annual remuneration as opposed
Yes.
to per meeting?
Yeah.
So they cannot attend and still get paid?
Correct.
Hmm,
That's not good.
right.
It's not. Oh, you should attend more meetings.
Like those. Yeah.
Carol.
This is where the confusion lies in council members who are public. We are appointed to be here, but we're seen to be members, public.
We are members. yeah.
You're members of the
Right.
board, yeah.
So when you're discussing the discrepancies between public members and council, there's a little bit of blurring of that because we are members. But the expectation is who do we, and we've had communication back and forth. How do you define the role of the council reps who are now just members like anyone else? We've just been asked to sit in here through the council appointment process. So as we move through this, it does blur the lines. As counselors, we get expense accounts for a certain amount we're allowed. If we're sitting here as a member, then how do we make it the same as rather than distinct from?
I think the intent was is that if you're on council business, council rules would apply. If it's for police board work, whatever the case may be, then it would be under the police board policy. So meals and things like that. Now, as far as the annual remuneration, that was removed a number of years ago based on the board's decision at that time.
So the need.
Still confusing because you're representing the city on the board.
Correct.
But when you're here, you're a police board member.
Yes.
And that's what needs to be identified in this policy, a definition of a counselor serving as a police board member.
And I agree, we need clarification. And even in the orientation for new council members, we need clear delineation on what is the scope and what is your role when you sit at this table. And certainly needs to be expanded on, because otherwise that confusion can persist. So however it's defined in the future, but I think it needs to go back to the city for the orientation of new council members as well, so that we clarify on an ongoing basis.
So basically, once we leave here and we return to be a counselor, we're a liaison for the information on the open session from the board to council.
That would be one of the
Yeah.
descriptors on the expectations
Mhm.
of the role as you sit at this table.
I think you're pulling on your experience as a counselor and as a community member when you're sitting here. And then what you would do is you would vote, you would on policies, procedures, whatever it may be. And then going back to council, you would advise that that was the position you would take as a board member. I'm not sure whether you could get back to council and reverse that stance.
Exactly. Therein comes the need for clarification on when you're at this, when you make decisions, this is where you have. Because when we sit here, we're part of a board. We're not representing the city. We're part of a board making decisions about the benefit for our community and our police services. That's why we're here.
And I think that in email that I sent you sort of clarified that.
It did, and as I said, we've communicated.
Okay.
That information needs to become part of the information package for orientation and excellence.
We could also probably put it in see if there's a place in the policy that allows for that.
I think that's maybe important for you to put on Hank's radar as well, but like there's so much thematic training and onboarding training and things that there's probably be some direction from the ministry as well on what exactly that,
Yeah, come to
what
find
hat
out,
you're wearing and when you're wearing it.
Yes.
How that works.
that's been an issue discussed many times before in the past too. What I come to find out now is that there's actually specific training for provincial appointees. Well, I wasn't aware of that until just recently. So in addition to the thematic training and the role responsibilities, they have provincial appointee trainings.
Yeah.
Here it says the provincial appointees are remunerated $150 at a daily rate. So it doesn't say meeting or conference, the $150 as per regulation. So
No, I think that says it's a minimum.
yes, but it doesn't say it's for a meeting or for a conference, so it can be for either one.
So this board is taking the stance that if an appointee attends a conference, there's no remuneration.
For a provincial appointee,
Oh,
they receive an annual remuneration. But if you work it out based on $150, it's significantly more.
but that doesn't answer my question. My question is, this board has determined that, has this board determined that a provincial appointee attending a conference does not get paid or does get paid?
In the past, the past boards have determined that they do not get paid.
So past practice is that there's a lump sum for your participation in everything over the course of the year. That would cover off attendance at the 10 board meetings throughout the year. There's a couple special board meetings as well as any training that you attend, and it would still work out to more than $150 a day.
And this board pays those fees. The province doesn't. Okay. So this policy, in the end, this policy needs to come back with
Yep, it will.
adjustments.
You guys as counselors make a lot of decisions here that you can't share with council too.
Absolutely, yeah.
No, that's not true.
Well, not decisions, but
Session closed.
We never make a decision.
not
in closed.
decision,
Decision. in
just
closed.
information.
Yeah. But there's still, well, there would still be something. Sure,
Discuss, yes,
yeah.
but anything that's decision is made, monetary, anything else has to be done in open. We may discuss it in closed.
Yeah.
But it comes back to open for the actual decision.
Yeah, without details.
And then there's usually details provided.
No, I mean, as per discussion.
Details.
Confidential close.
Although we don't make any decisions in confidential close. Same as confidential, with the confidential close is more geared to staffing issues.
I think, if I may, Chair, one of the challenges is, in addition to, roles and responsibilities, but if we think of potentially in the future, the counselor role is more of a liaison role, where we send information back.
Mhm.
When we're here, we're a member. We're a member.
Mhm.
We participate as a member. The extra expectation is that we have that responsibility to liaise back to city council and city staff to make sure that the communication channels stay open.
Right.
And people are informed. And I think however this is written in the future, I think that is, for me, helps to clarify the expectations, because otherwise it becomes councillor, provincial appointee member, and then can get, and that's where I certainly will appreciate more of the clarification as we go forward.
Mhm. Anything else?
No. Oh, no.
Moving on then to item number E. This is to talk about the we're going to have on the agenda GP 003 board governance, and we're going to change the way the agenda is laid out in the board of governance for our open session proceedings. And this is a result of what we voted on back in November, December, I guess. Unfortunately, the updates didn't make it in time for distribution to the meeting, but they will be on next month's meeting. Moving on to review of general policy 023, records retention, storage and destruction policy and procedures, AI 007, on-sound police services, special policy 009, retention bylaw and other activities. I've included that portion of retention bylaw that relates to service because it's in direct compliance with the actual our board policies. The board policy sits there and police service must be in compliance with the board policy. So I just wanted to do the full loop as to what's involved there. Any questions on the new policy that we're going to approve? So if I could have a motion to approve the updated board policy GPS 23.
Sure.
Thanks, Brian. Seconder? Larry, thank you. All in favor? Okay. And also I'm gonna get Gail to check with Dave because the acronym GPS isn't on my master drive, thumb drive, so I'm gonna ask, maybe that's just a typo to get back to us.
I think it is, and there's also change the footer of GPS 24 of the footer.
Okay.
23, it shouldn't be GPS, it should be West.
I don't know where the acronym GPS came from. Well, general police service, I don't know. Anyways, we'll get that clarified, but the policy is approved as a wording, that's fine. All right, moving on to item number F, something we brought up last meeting is more of an information request regarding Bitcoin ATMs.
Sure. So I completed just an information report, regarding Bitcoin ATMs and their impact on frauds in the city and residents of Owen Sound. I'll try to go through the report kind of in a way that's easily understandable, and then you can refer to the report if you need to for the actual specific definitions. Basically, a Bitcoin ATM is a way to swap cash for Bitcoin and swap Bitcoin back for cash, if you can think about it that way. In terms of a physical kiosk, not unlike a bank machine. You can attend there, you can put your cash in, switch it to Bitcoin, or you can take Bitcoin and put it in there in the form of a address and swap back for cash. How are they used for fraud, or why they're used for fraud? It's because it's a quick way for scammers to extract money from victims due to speed, anonymity, and irreversibility of transactions. So once you're able to convince them to do it, it's in your hands, and unlike the banking industry, there's no means, or there's limited means to recover. So some of the common fraud types that we see in Owen Sound and basically everywhere involves fraudsters posing as government employees, Canada Revenue employees, police officers, trying to demand payments for missed tax bills, etc. There's investment scams where there's promises of abnormally large returns guaranteed in exchange for initial investments. And there's also tech and computer type scams where they take over your computer and gain access to your financial bank accounts, etc., that you have online. Some information regarding Owen Sound frauds. The total loss that we've investigated are listed by year, dating back to 2020. You can see there's a wide variety and no particular pattern in terms of increase. Now, just to keep in mind, this is just related to Bitcoin ATMs. There's other crypto and Bitcoin frauds involving online accounts that don't involve a Bitcoin ATM. This is just specific to Bitcoin ATM machines that are in Owen Sound. So you'll see in 2021, that's actually $100,000 loss, and that was the one and only incident in 2021. So there's quite a variance. Of all those years, the highest number of occurrences in any one year is 4 victims that reported to our service for investigation. There's 5 current locations in the city. They're all at convenience stores, and they're listed there. I had a look at the legal and regulatory framework for ATMs in Canada related to Bitcoin. There's currently no bans in Ontario or anywhere in Canada at the current time. The city of Vancouver has got the farthest along in the process of attempting to consider banning them back in 2019. But ultimately they voted against doing so. They didn't want to be hostile to emerging financial technology. There was a mention of Burlington. That was actually out of the United States, Burlington, Massachusetts. That state and several municipalities in that state have banned Bitcoin ATMs. But again, that's a little bit different in that it's strictly to that state and in a different country. But if you were to look at a possible ban, you'd be the first country to do so. Does anybody have any questions or clarification on that?
Well, it's not something I really understand. Do you physically get something in your hand from this machine?
You get well, it depends. If you can link up a personal wallet with your own address, so you can do the transaction on the machine and it goes to your wallet. If you don't have a pre-established wallet, you get a receipt with an address on it. It's like a 40-digit.
If you have money in
Address.
Bitcoin, you can go to one of these machines and get
cash.
for your Bitcoin.
Okay,
Or you can transfer Bitcoin from the machine to another address. That's where the fraud comes in. They convince you to go down and either put your own cash in, convert it to Bitcoin, and send it to them, or you bring your own Bitcoin, which is more
and they
rare
would convert the Bitcoin back to cash.
on the
So-
other end.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
these 5 locations, is there an actual physical machine like an ATM
There
in
is,
there?
yeah.
So there's 2 separate machines, an ATM and a Bitcoin?
All I know is From my own knowledge, I would say yes. I think there are cash ATMs there as well, but there's 5 different locations where there's a physical Bitcoin machine within the store.
Carol?
Buying air.
In your investigation, age groups of those who have.
The victims of fraud, more geared towards older individuals.
So it matches the
Yeah.
trend of other types of frauds that.
Most types, yeah.
So, we certainly do in our area. I mean, we know we have large amount of those who fall within the seniors category. But we also have groups that are actively involved with seniors education, legal aid, seniors abuse.
Yes.
How can we link with those groups to be able to inform, educate? I mean, I know there's been some education, but specifically around Bitcoin.
I know that our community service officer has visited lots of groups targeting seniors and delivered. I mean, there's always room for more, of course.
Sure.
Um,
So legal aid, has there been some connection with the legal aid services that are available in Great Bruce?
I'm not aware of. I don't know if anyone else is aware of that. I'm not aware of that. It might be an avenue to.
Hopefully it doesn't get to legal aid.
Well, there isn't someone who's actively involved sort of with seniors in education and information, and also with the legal aid clinic, but her name is Angela Jensen, and perhaps that might be a connection that would be helpful, because she interfaces with a variety of seniors groups and seniors harm.
Yeah,
prevention.
so our community service officer kind of leads that education part, so
Okay.
I can link
You
them
would
together
like
and
us-
see if something can be done, yeah.
Sure, thank you.
There's education that comes from so many different agencies on this topic and others. I mean, that's been going on for 5 to 10 years. I mean, it's flooded. I mean, the reality is, it shouldn't need education to say the Canadian government isn't going to tell you to go to Shoppers Drug Mart and pay your taxes and Apple gift cards, but we still have.
They do that?
Obviously, there's an issue that still continues to happen, but I mean, at what point, or Bitcoin as well, I mean, it should be obvious the government has never asked for payment of taxes or bills or anything else in Bitcoin, and never will, I don't imagine, but you know, there's signs up all over the place. The banks are very involved in these things, even when you go to take out money from the bank, if it's a certain amount, you know, what are you taking it out for? Like,
Yeah.
Mary?
The banks or Visa or any credit cards, if you are fraudulent, or if someone has been fraudulent against you, you seem to get that money back. However, with Bitcoin, is there any kind of guarantee on that? No.
The purpose of Bitcoin is to be anonymous in your transactions. So it's very difficult. It's not impossible.
Yeah.
There have been some successes, but it's very difficult sometimes it takes multiple years to
Mhm.
trace.
Okay, thank you. Good report. I like that. Good.
Thank you.
And thanks for clarifying Burlington, Massachusetts.
I learned a little bit along the way.
So when happens when you hear the soundbite off the radio, and Burlington, oh, okay. All right, moving on to next up to 2023-2026 ops plan progress update. Mark, over to you.
Yeah, I'll let Mark give you the update on this one.
Okay, thanks, chief. So yeah, this is number 6 of your month progress reports from our operational plan. It actually represents the end of year 3 of our 4-year plan. So it is a pretty significant progress report here attached. As you know, this plan that you're all involved in, and it's really the board's plan, the board's strategic priorities. There's 14 goals altogether and 50 specific actions connected to those different goals. What we did throughout the course of this plan is, for each action, we designated a position or a person responsible to take the lead. They were not solely responsible, but they were really meant to kind of coordinate moving the action forward with whoever and whatever resources they needed. So anyway, in this end of year 3 progress report, there is a more significant change this time. A lot of the actions were designated as completed. So in this case, we went through a lot of the actions with the chief and the senior officers. Some of the actions are clearly things that you stop, you start, and then there's a very clear endpoint. But many of them are things that we put in place, and they're meant to be ongoing business practices. So as we went through the actions over the last 3 years, many of them that have been now designated as complete are things that we are confident they are ongoing business practices that we are confident are now built into day-to-day business. So that's why the big change this time. So at this point, we had designated 35 of 50 of those completed, and that's about 70% of the actions. We've got 14 actions still in progress and one that has not yet started. So this report here, you have the attachment, the very large PDF provides an update on every single action, every single like 50 different actions. So there's a lot of information in there, but the shorter report, I've just highlighted a few things for your information. So some of the newer actions that we identified as completed are some of these ongoing business practices. So things like improving police visibility in the River District. This is something that's part of our day-to-day business now with our core officer now, that position now filled, our CSO officer, the community services officer, auxiliaries officer, and part-time officers when they're not doing court security. Improving collaboration with social service providers is an ongoing part of our business practice. Leveraging those available social services and resources is something that we are confident is now part of day-to-day business. With improved follow-up with victims of crime, now with the full-time victim services staff member physically located in our station here. And some new business cards going out. So in this highlight here and in each of them, I asked the folks who are responsible to include a few examples to show how this has been built into day-to-day practice. So if you need some reading material before bed, it's a great option. But anyway, I won't go through all of those. A couple here I did want to highlight that are still the status is still in progress. There's one related to addressing controlled substances and violent crime. The bail compliance and warrant apprehension team has done tremendous work in this area, but it's still in progress as the implementation of our new provincial bail compliance warrant apprehension dashboard. So that's a new tool being initiated across the province that will improve communication with offenders that are traveling across jurisdictions. So that is set to be up and running over the next 6 months. Another big project that we've got on the go this year is the development of an internal SharePoint site. So that is going to address a lot of the actions related to improving internal communication flow and improving the ease of finding information. And another big action is undertaking a comprehensive service delivery review and looking at alternative call response models. So that's been started and stopped a few times just because of the significant demand on resources required to undertake such a significant review. It is planned to be initiated this fall. And the one action that has not yet started is kind of a subsidiary of that one. So depending on the results of that review, there may or may not be some additional community information that needs to follow if anything changes. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. We are in the final year of this plan. Also on our the year ahead, likely in this fall, we will be starting to look ahead to the next 4-year plan, your plan, and we'll be kind of laying out the groundwork of how, what kind of environmental scanning processes we'll take. And, part of that process, again, we'll be looking at these actions. Are there things that didn't get completed that we want to carry forward? And so anyway, welcome any questions you may have, but that's just a quick.
Moving into 2027 plan, will you be looking at doing another community questionnaire survey like you did before?
It is an essential component to some kind of external community scanning. So it seems to be, I wouldn't say easy, but a way of tapping into a broad scope of people's. So, and because we've done community survey over the last 2 cycles, if we repeat some of the questions in a similar community survey, we can monitor the change over time. Yeah.
Carol.
Further along to the survey component, more and more we're hearing surveys are one tool, but the community engagement and face-to-face seems to be really, really important. And wondering if there is an opportunity to incorporate a multimodal approach. Obviously, you might wish to structure that in ways that maybe have focused questions or facilitate it, but I think there is a desire for engagement, communication face to face in addition to surveys.
Yeah. It's really completely up to us collectively, the board. The survey is just one method of obtaining input. So there's many different ways we can do that. So face to face is one thing. Over the years, some running town hall sessions, things like that. There's pros and cons to it, but certainly offering that opportunity to citizens is an excellent choice.
Yeah, specific groups that have a
Specific
particular
groups.
focus.
Yeah.
So will that conversation come back to this board table in over this 2026?
Oh,
It'll be a part of the plan, I think.
yeah,
to
I
develop.
would think we would have a draft plan of attack,
Yeah.
not attack, but how we think we're going to pull together information, but certainly this is your plan.
Yeah.
So that will involve your input and support.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that.
Okay,
Been
thanks.
good. Lots of work. All right. I think the last item we have on the agenda is item number H, which is a special constable. David.
Sure. Very quickly, when the new act came in 2024, the process of appointing special constables, auxiliary members, all that sort of thing transitioned from the ministry to the board. What happened with all the pre-existing ministry appointments is they were grandfathered until the point that they expired, and then they come back to the board as well for reappointment. So you're going to see a number of these as time goes through from all of our existing members because they all have different appointment dates. So special constable Cranny's expiry is coming up very shortly. So the request is simply to have him reappointed first time by the board. And then that also carries on for another 3-year cycle. So every special constable will be on a 3-year cycle moving forward, and you're going to continue to see these. So that's what we were putting forward. Whether or not, I had a quick look through the act to see whether a board motion is required. It simply says the board shall appoint. Looking just for not only the reappointment of special constable Cranny, but just some direction for where you'd like to see these go in the future and how we process them.
Yeah, and I look at what we do with regular constables when they're appointed. There's really nothing that goes to the board other than just an information piece that says, I was down swearing in ceremony last week and they were appointed. So I don't think we need to do anything more than that for the special constable. But obviously we have to sign them. But I don't think it needs to be a board appointment. Any comments and thoughts from anyone?
Well, I think information and information exchange is important.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think the chair finds the appointment. And obviously, we can give those to you whenever they're coming up to be done, but a quarterly or a biannually or an annual, these people have been reappointed this month just to.
Yeah.
So there's some formal record of it and when they were reappointed. So there's a way to look at it and track that, I think, so that you have confidence that everybody's covered off and when they're due again. Is probably important, but I don't think it has to come with each. I don't think every meeting we have to have a
No.
new designation. Leave that up to you.
Yeah. No, I think quarterly, this one's probably fine. Don't want to make work project or something. We just acknowledge that the constable's been appointed and we don't report back on that other than just in the meeting here. Who knows?
And I'll just grab your signature whenever I need one.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
All right, good. Thank you, Dave. Right. Moving on to the next meeting, if I get a motion to move into closed and confidential closed.
Moved by yourself, seconded by by Brian O'Leary. I was dating myself back there. that the board move into closed session, and upon termination of the closed session, the board moved into confidential closed session. These meetings are to review and discuss matters that fall under section 44, item 2 of the Community Safety and Policing Act and section 25, item B of the Owen Sound Police Services Board General Policy 003, Board Governance, to consider educational or training sessions, B, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the board. C, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including members of the police service or any other employees of the board. And D, labor relations or employee negotiations.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you.
I was just